In my 2017 analysis, many of my classmates said that they recycled and some said that they didn't. Today I'm going to try and persuade you to recycle and tell you about all the beneficial effects it has to the environment and how recycling can help save the planet. First, I'm going to start off telling you about the pros of recycling. It has environmental benefits. When you recycle items, either you go to the incinerator or landfills where trash usually goes. Whether they're in the incinerator, it burns or it is left to rot in landfills. It releases chemicals into the air, ground, and also the water. This will help reduce the waste that goes from polluting landfills and into the incinerator. So what that means is if we just start recycling, a lot of the waste will not go into landfills, and a lot of toxic chemicals will not be released into the air and not consumed by people then. So next is it creates jobs for people. Supplies, job in communities. Recycling can also be a good source of good middle class jobs for people who do not have a very well education under their belt. Also, along with renewable energy, recycling is a source of green jobs, which some say are critical to the 21st century. Another pro is it reduces the energy to use manufactured goods. When a company wants to make a garment, like a shirt or socks or pants or anything like that, you would have to help harvest cotton and linen crops, so you would be doing some hard labor. But then to think of it in a recycling aspect, some companies are using recycled textiles, and it can cut out the first step of the manufacturing process, which is having to do all the manual labor to get cotton and linen. Saving energy as a result of that. Some to the extent of recycling reduces the need of growing, mining, or extracting raw materials. It has some very significant environmental benefits. Those are the pros. Next, I'm going to tell you about the cons that recycling has. There are some of them. Recycling takes energy too. When you hear the statement, reduce, reuse, and recycle, well, some environmentalists argue that reduce and reuse have more environmental benefits than the word recycle. That is because if you consume less, that you will help the environment better, because the less you have to recycle, and the less will go into landfills and releases chemicals, as I said before. Because recycling takes energy, as does the manufacturing products from the replaced materials. So you'd be saving energy that way too. Another con is recycling can lead to pollution. Many electronics slated for recycling are shipped overseas, and then they are hand picked and sorted out in that way. They are shipped over to the less developed countries where they don't have all those type of things, so that's why they have to recycle. During this process, metals and other chemicals can leach into the land and water where the recycling is taking place, so that's what can make the water that you drink there toxic and can lead to you getting sick. Recycling is also costly. Some towns and cities say that they can't afford to operate recycling programs because of how much they cost. And in the U.S., landfills space is generally cheaply available, which means that the recycling can exceed the cost of the landfill waste disposal in many places. But also another thing that costs money is some items cost more to recycle, which is why some cities choose to not recycle glass and plastic. Those are the cons to recycling. Some impacts that it has also, it reduces landfill waste. Over 258 million tons of municipal solid waste were generated this year alone. And according to the National Institute of Health Environmental Management System, that 94% of natural resources used by the Americans are non-renewable. Recycling office paper saves about 17 trees, 7,000 gallons of water, 463 gallons of oil, 3 cubic yards of landfill. Recycled plastic saves 16.3 barrels of oil. Recycled steels save 1.8 barrels of oil, 4 cubic yards in landfill. Another impact that it has is it saves forests from being cut down, because the trees there, 40% of the trees are cut into paper pulp, and that accounts for all the timber too that it comes from. And also another fact is aluminum is the most energy intensive, so that's also why people choose not to, that's why mostly people choose to recycle aluminum, because it's the most energy intensive. Recycling paper reduces pollution in the air also by 75%. According to the University of Michigan, just one person recycling their newspaper, magazines, plastic, gas, and metal for 1 year is enough to save 471 pounds of carbon dioxide from going into the atmosphere. Another thing, and so now I'm going to tell you reasons why you should recycle. Recycling greatly minimizes carbon emissions and commonly referred to as greenhouse gases. It beefs up property value. People who take up recycling reduce the amount of waste going into landfills, which leaves more open space for people to live and build houses. Developing in a habitat or buying only what you need and reusing rather than purchasing new stuff saves a lot on your budget. So, meaning if you buy less or you buy more but reuse more, you're going to save money. Increased use of recycled products puts a brake to the explosion of natural resources like forests, rivers, lakes, and wetlands. Also, another thing that it does, it creates demand. Developing the routine of recycling and purchasing recycled goods ramps up the demand for the recycled products. In conclusion, I may be wrong, but I personally think that everyone should recycle, and because it can make a huge impact on the planet.